Hello everyone, today Thanh continues to tell 5 stories about life. Please listen.
Story 206 The Fateful Rain. On a small hill in the French countryside, there is a peaceful town called Montclair. The town is famous for its endless lavender fields and small roadside cafes. One September afternoon, when dark clouds began to gather, Amélie, the baker of Le Du Bonheur, hurriedly cleaned up the shop. The young girl with wavy brown hair always dreamed of a romantic love like in fairy tales. On the contrary, Etienne, a wandering artist with a felt hat and a paintbrush always in hand, did not believe in miracles. He thought that life was a series of practical days, with no room for romantic dreams. The rain suddenly poured down while Etienne was standing under the lavender fields. Not having time to take shelter, he rushed into Amélie's shop. The tinkling doorbell signaled an uninvited guest. He was soaked to the skin, his hair matted but his eyes bright, looking around the warm room with the scent of apple pie and cinnamon. Amélie laughed. "You seem to like this rain." Etienne shrugged, taking off his soaked jacket. "I don't like rain, but at least it brought me here." They both laughed. The rain outside was getting heavier, but inside, an interesting conversation began. Etienne talked about his travels and paintings, and Amélie shared her dream of opening a famous bakery. For the first time, Etienne felt that the rain was no longer a nuisance. It became a gentle melody, a background for this fateful meeting. Amélie looked outside, the rain still falling relentlessly. She smiled mischievously, pulling Etienne's hand. "If you don't like rain, then let me teach you how to love it." She led him outside, the two of them dancing in the rain. Splashing puddles and laughter echoed through the lavender fields. Etienne was stunned, feeling like the whole world had shrunk in that moment, where it was just him, Amélie and the rain. When the rain stopped, Etienne took Amélie's hand, looking deep into her eyes. "Thank you for showing me that life isn't about waiting for the storm to pass, but learning to dance in the rain. Listen, life will never be as perfect or smooth as we wish it to be. But instead of waiting for the hardships to pass, learn to enjoy every moment, even in the midst of the challenges. Happiness isn't about avoiding the storm, it's about finding joy in every situation."
Story 207 The Secret of the Moonlight. In a small village nestled in the mountains of Japan, there is an ancient shrine known as Tsukimori, Moonlight Forest. It is said that every full moon night, the moonlight shining on the shrine will sparkle with a magical blue, as if carrying a profound secret of the universe. Asuka, a young girl passionate about astronomy, grew up listening to stories about the shrine. But instead of seeing it as a myth, she was determined to discover the scientific reason behind this phenomenon. She spent her days studying ancient books, and at night she took out her telescope to look at the sky. One day, when the moon was at its fullest and brightest, Asuka went to the shrine to observe the phenomenon. She was not alone. Hiroshi, her childhood friend and nature lover, went with her. Hiroshi did not believe in the complicated formulas of science. To him, the beauty of nature needed no explanation. As the moonlight began to glow a pale blue, Asuka pointed to the rocks around the shrine, explaining to Hiroshi that the rocks contained minerals that glowed when the moonlight hit them at a certain angle. She described this optical phenomenon in complex scientific terms. Hiroshi smiled and nodded, but the explanation was still foreign to him. He turned to her and said, "Asuka, I don't understand everything you're saying, but when I look at this moonlight, I feel a sense of wonder. Can you help me understand it better?" Asuka fell silent, looking up at the moonlight. She thought for a moment, then gently took Hiroshi's hand and led him to a nearby pool of water. "Look down into the water," she said. "Isn't the moonlight reflected in the water just as beautiful as it is above? But without the water, we wouldn't be able to see the moonlight beneath our feet." Science is like this water. It helps us understand the beauty of the universe, not take away its wonder. Hiroshi looked at Asuka, his eyes shining as if he had just been enlightened. "I see, science is not just dry facts, but a way to bring the truth closer to people's hearts." Lesson science is not simply about finding the truth or discovering phenomena, but also a journey to make those truths more understandable, closer, and meaningful to everyone. Only when we know how to connect science with emotions and life, will the truth truly shine.
Story 208 Love and Knowledge in the Shade of an Oak amidst the endless meadows of Yorkshire. The small library of Ashfield Village nestles under the shade of an old oak tree. It is not only a place to store books, but also the heart of the village, where stories, knowledge and sometimes even love quietly blossom. Clara, the daughter of the village blacksmith, goes to the library every afternoon. Not because she needs books, but because it is the only place where she feels free from the duties of a poor girl. For Clara, knowledge is the door to the wider world, where the limitations of status or class no longer have meaning. Edward, the young aristocrat, inheriting a large fortune from his father, also often comes to the library, but for a different reason. He comes to seek tranquility, away from the invitations to parties and the scrutiny of the upper class. But from the first time he saw Clara absorbed in an old book, Edward found himself drawn not only to her peace, but also to the light in her eyes. One afternoon, Edward sat across from Clara, placing a thick book on the table. "Clara, I bet you don't understand this," he said, half joking. Clara looked up, her eyes challenging. "It's Newton's Principia, right? I'm reading chapter 2. There's nothing difficult to understand." Edward laughed, unable to hide his surprise. "You are indeed a special person. But why study these things? Isn't your destiny to become a wife in the village?" Clara stared at him. "Do you think knowledge is only for people like you? I don't study to change my destiny, Edward. I study to understand this world. And who knows, maybe one day, knowledge will change my life." From that day on, Edward began to find ways to get closer to Clara. They discussed books, big ideas, and small dreams. Through these conversations, Edward gradually realized one thing: knowledge is not the property of any class. A few years later, Edward invested his entire fortune to build an academy right in Ashfield, where everyone, regardless of wealth or poverty, can access knowledge. Clara became the first director of the academy. Their love story is not an escape from reality, but a journey to change that reality together. Lesson knowledge not only helps us understand the world, but also opens the way to change it. Investing in knowledge is not only an investment in yourself, but also a gift for society. Its power lies in the fact that, no matter who you are, knowledge can always become the wings that take you to new heights.
Story 209 Shadow in the Red Desert. In the heart of the vast Simpson Desert, where red soil stretches to the horizon, there is a small village with a few dozen old houses. People live on livestock and the rare freight cars passing by. There, Chloe, a young girl with golden hair like the sun, always longs to leave this harsh land for the prosperous city of Melbourne. Liam, the village hunter, is different. He loves this barren land with all his passion. He always says, "The desert is the biggest test of life." Chloe, as long as you learn to face it, you will find it is no longer scary. One day, a huge sandstorm suddenly comes, sweeping everything away. The village is completely isolated, the only source of water is covered under a thick layer of sand. Chloe, facing the harsh survival scene for the first time, falls into a panic. Liam comes to her with an old compass and a torn map. "Chloe, if we want to survive, we have to reach the ancient well 15 kilometers away before the sun reaches its peak." "I'll go with you." They set off in the fading light of dawn. The desert was not only a physical challenge but also a mental one. Chloe, accustomed to safety, found herself tired and discouraged. She burst into tears when her shoes got stuck in the sand, but Liam pulled her up, his eyes determined. "Chloe, you have to believe that you are stronger than you think. Don't let the desert get the best of you." Chloe gritted her teeth and continued walking. As the sun rose, the heat burned everything. But Liam was always by her side. telling her stories of the desert, of how tiny plants survived in the sand. Those stories seemed to give Chloe strength. When they reached the ancient well, Chloe saw her reflection in the clear water. She realized one thing: she had changed. Chloe is no longer the girl who runs away from difficulties, but the one who can face them. After the storm passes, Chloe decides to stay in the village, rebuilding what was lost with Liam. She realizes that sometimes life doesn't require big dreams, but the courage to face each small challenge. Lesson: life is not without storms, whether in the desert or in our own souls. But the challenge is not the biggest thing. What matters more is how we face it, stand up, face it, and find the strength hidden within ourselves. How we overcome difficulties is what defines us.
Story 210: A Christmas Dream. The town of Snowpine lies quietly among the snow-capped mountains, where everything becomes more magical every Christmas season. However, for Ethan, a young software engineer who has just moved from the big city, the holidays mean little. He is used to stressful projects, dry numbers and codes. The festive atmosphere only reminds him of his loneliness. Not far from Ethan's house, an old electronics repair shop is run by Lily, a young girl with skillful hands and a warm smile. Lily is famous throughout the town for her ability to revive items that were thought to be completely broken. One day before Christmas, Ethan brought to Lily's shop a strange antique, an old wooden music box that he happened to pick up at a flea market. He asked curiously, "Can you fix this? I want to give it to a child in a charity center." Lily examined the music box, realizing that not only was the mechanism broken, but the wood carvings had faded as well. She smiled. "I'll try, but I'll need your help. I heard you're a software engineer. Maybe your talent will come in handy." Ethan laughed. "An old music box doesn't need any code, Lily." Lily pointed to the motor. "Who said that? If we add a small control circuit, this music box can play more melodies than just the same old one." The two worked together all night. Lily fixed the mechanism and redecorated the music box, while Ethan programmed the circuit to control the songs. Under the warm light, they talked about work, dreams, and things they had given up on because they thought they were unrealistic. When the music box was finished, Ethan tried pressing the button. The music played, the gentle melodies blending with the light emitted by the small bulbs Lily had cleverly added. Ethan looked at the music box, filled with an indescribable joy. "Lily, you taught me that creativity is not just about software or engineering. It is about combining the simplest things to create magic." The next morning, when the music box was given to the children at the charity center, the eyes that sparkled with joy changed Ethan. He decided to combine his engineering work with small creative ideas, just like Lily did. Lesson: creativity has no limits, whether in engineering, art, or everyday life. The important thing is to know how to look at things from a different perspective and never accept anything as impossible. It is the combination of passion and creativity that helps us turn the ordinary into the extraordinary.
Thank you for listening. Goodbye and see you in the next short stories about life.